And we are now being joined by public commentator, Mr. Zaka Bala. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And of course, still with us is Mr. Olu Akpata, the INEC accredited domestic observer. Well, before we left the set for the news, we were talking about the issue of intimidation of officials and even the voters themselves. And of course, we were trying to put it into perspective, that issue of intimidation of, well, the stakeholders in the electoral process. And, that was stemming from the experience in Rivers State. So it's back to the issue of intimidation now.
The alleged experience.
Well, we heard from various parties. The governorship candidates, a candidate from the House of, for the House of Representatives. Yeah. We also heard from a foreign observer. So, of course, there are allegations, but then, yes, indeed, somebody claims to have been intimidated or someone intimidated someone.
Alleged, not until proven.
Of course.
At that level.
Absolutely. Just being cautious.
Yeah, just trying to understand what in the book of observers will constitute intimidation.
I think you'll pretty much be the same as in the book of any reasonable bystander, which I think is the test we can use for this one. And as I was saying just before we went on the break, considering that most of your electoral officers or officials are youth corporals, civilians, anybody who can muster just a little bit of state power.
A smidging of authority.
Yes, just a slither of it. You know what I mean? It would be enough to overawe a young youth corporal who's just carrying out this assignment, this national assignment. So, yeah, that would be intimidation if we were to look at it that way. But permit me to say,
there's verbal intimidation. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
There's verbal intimidation. There's physical intimidation. That's what we're asking. That there has to be proof of that. And is it intimidation to stop someone from voting for a particular candidate by verbally assaulting or harassing that person, or is it physical intimidation where you actually? So we're trying to get a sense of what they meant.
I mean, in their minds, they probably are able to capture what it is that they encountered, or to articulate it better. But I would assume that anything you would do to deter this official of INEC from carrying out their lawful responsibility, anything you would do to try to get them not to do what they're legally meant to be doing at the polling station, by using state power, by using even brute force, I would think would amount to intimidation. But as to the particulars of this this alleged infraction, we would have to wait and see what exactly transpired, which is why I was going to ask the question, are we going to actually try these cases on television, if you know what I mean? The lawyer in me is a little bit hesitant to go into the issues, because the 36 states plus Abuja, I mean, are we going to run from pillar to post every time somebody comes up and says so and such happened?
No, but there's a legitimate conversation to be had. If you've got observers such as yourself, writing detailed reports to INEC to say we observed A, B, C, D, E, F, I don't think it is out of place for the media to discuss that particular findings of those particular observers.
The point I was about to make is to the effect that Dakuku, Peterside, and the APC folks went over to the INEC office and dropped off their petition. If this is what if I'm to believe what he has said on television, and I think Professor Jaga, we are told, has promised to look into the matter. It's good that they bring it to the attention of the media so that we can focus searchlight on the matter for as long as it takes for INEC to respond. However, it may even become prejudicial at the end of the day if we dig in too deep. Let due process take its course. That's the point I was just trying to make. Let due process take its course. We must believe in the process. You know what I mean? That there's a presumption of regularity, that what ought to be done will be done. You know what I mean? But
which we've all said, actually.
Yes. So we must. But I agree. We must beam the searchlight on the process. Otherwise, you know, a lot can go on in the dark if you don't beam the searchlight on it. So yeah.
Well, we did talk about the situation in Rivers State, and well, that's what gave rise to this issue of harassment or intimidation. But you've been observing the electoral process here in Lagos. What has your experience been like?
I observed yesterday and even today, and I must say, firstly, and I've also watched this program in the course of the day, so there has been, I think the recurring sentiment has been, firstly, kudos to the Nigerian people. You know, the passion, and that word has been recurring all day, but I must repeat the word, the persistence, the determination on the part of the people. They have, so my first observation is that the people have taken ownership of the process, and they're totally resolved to ensure to see the process through. And for me, that was admirable. That was you know, heartwarming, because sometimes, you know, we talk about the fact that the problem in Nigeria is leadership, and then we now say, okay, there's also the problem of followership. So for me, seeing the way Nigerians have come around full circle as far as I'm concerned with regard to this election process and being determined to deal with it, that was the first observation. Because I went to quite a number of polling units, and it was the same thing. People are there, staying to the very end. In my particular polling unit, we stayed until 4:30 a.m., until the last vote was counted, and people were not tired. They were there, quite a number of people. So that's the first thing. And then, okay, then there's the issue of the process itself. How well did it work? Could have been much better. There's no doubt about it. Could have been so much better. And so, which is sometimes, to an observer, you just say to yourself, couldn't we have fixed this? Didn't we have enough time to ensure that these things could have been done better, more optimally? My observation in most of the polling units was firstly late starts all over, and reports coming even today at Shango Tedo, on the Lekki Aja axis, where today was supposed to be the second day, because the INEC officials did not show up yesterday. But even today, as at 3 p.m., they were not there. So I left that polling unit at about 8:30 this evening, and they were counting votes. I'm happy to report that the process actually went underway. But you ask yourself, does it have to be night voting? Do people have to use the headlamps of their cars to illuminate the location? You know.
Yes, we talked about that yesterday.
Yeah.
All the hitches and the glitches and the chinks in the system. How far along the road do we have to travel before these things are left behind, since we are such a great country?
Well, let us hope that it is not our reality. Let us hope that it doesn't remain our reality. You know what I mean? Because I correct myself, it is our reality for now. Let us hope that as we move along, I've heard the optimists amongst us say 2019 it will be much better. I want to buy into that, but definitely things could have been done so much better. And I think it was Kadari, a program you anchored a couple of weeks ago, the town hall program with the INEC chairman. There was a particular gentleman who asked and said, "Why don't you tell us when there are issues?" You know, I remember that, and I watched and said, because sometimes I get the sense that INEC reminds me of a loving and doting father who is dead broke and thinks that he needs to protect his children from the reality of their situation. But we're old enough to take the truth, you know what I mean? And so if you're having issues, it's a massive endeavor. 700 plus local governments, landmass. So, I mean, if we could be told, maybe we would handle it differently.